Greetings. What's up? It's Deborah Watts, and I'm a few minutes behind today. Had a really interesting scenario with my vehicle, but that's a different story. um, so I want to just dive right in. Happy Monday to you. I hope you had a beautiful and restful weekend. If you get emails from me, you know that mine was not as smooth as I would have liked for it to have been. It was a little bumpy. um, yeah, so we'll save that for another Facebook Live. But in the meantime, I just wanted to say welcome. Welcome to the group if you're new. And for those of you who've been here with me for a while, welcome. Happy Monday to you, Radiant Queens. It's lovely to see you. So let's go ahead and get started today. This is a really interesting topic on money, and this is the one that I decided I've been choosing all these topics for a while now, and I didn't mean for it to be this, I don't know, dictator-like. It just kind of just randomly happened this morning. I was like, instead of me picking a topic, I'll let you guys pick it today. So the topic that was picked was on money and how to invest in yourself when you're broke. This is a topic that actually I really enjoy because as I get on the phone and I talk with women every single day, I hear a lot of people wanting to take a step forward to do something for themselves, but just being really fearful about where the money will come from and how they're going to make it work. And I see that all the time. And so I thought I would bring it as a topic for a conversation. It's personal for me because most of my life I've been broke. There is some really interesting stuff about my money story, my money belief story, and I shared a little bit of it here in the group, but it was really quiet when I got really personal. So I said, maybe this isn't the right time to share it with the group. So I kind of paused on that. But what I will say is that my money journey has gone through many different twists and turns, and it continues to do so. It's a kind of ever morphing one. But if you hadn't read my post on that, it started out with my father was very resourceful with money, and we didn't usually have a ton of money. We usually were pretty tight. In fact, when I was really little, we were super tight, like about to have our house foreclosed on, like choosing between eating and putting gas in the car to get where we needed to go. It was crazy. Of course, I didn't know any of this because I was too little, but I heard the stories later. And I know that influenced my money journey quite a bit. So I wanted to talk about this on a very personal level. I'm going to share with you, I'm going to kind of pull back the curtain on how I got to where I am today. And I am by no means out of the danger zone, I guess you could say, of being broke. I am broke more than I have money. But I want to actually share with you some things about this. There's a famous saying that Tony Robbins says all the time, which is success leaves clues. And I believe that is absolutely true for everything in life, including some of our money beliefs. So I'm just going to go through a couple things, and then I really would like to hear your thoughts in the comments as to what other questions you have about money beliefs and about the money journey. I'm happy to share with you whatever I know or whatever I've experienced. I don't like to talk about things that I don't know or haven't experienced personally, but if I've experienced it, I'll be more than happy to share with you my insights on that. So we're going to start out by saying, defining, kind of framing what we're talking about today in this Facebook Live, and that is investment, not purchases. So a really nice Louis Vuitton bag, or even like an indulgent, spa getaway, massage, mani-pedi, all those kinds of things, maybe a sauna or acupuncture. Those kinds of things are all wonderful, but they're not what we're talking about when we talk about investment. What I'm speaking of specifically is something that is always with you. It doesn't depreciate. It doesn't wear off. It doesn't rust. It can't be repossessed. It is something that stays with you. And that is anything such as education of any form, or skill building of any form. So someone who is a mason, they're always going to know how to lay bricks. They may not always want to lay bricks, but they'll always know how to lay bricks. Someone who is a finished carpenter will always know how to make cabinets and how to install cabinets. Now, they may not always want to do that, but they'll always know how. And so similarly, there are some specific skills, any of these skills, when you learn them, when you spend the money to learn those skills, you are investing in yourself, because that's something that you own, that knowledge, you own that skill once you learn it, and no one can take it from you. Very different from a purchase, which can get lost or stolen or whatever. Okay. So that's the first thing I wanted to share. One thing I wanted to say on that note about investment versus purchase, there are many programs that help people to get out of debt. And I'll come back to debt towards the end of this Facebook Live, but I really wanted to bring up that Dave Ramsey is someone who I actually used to follow his program, and actually I kind of still do live by his program for the most part, because I think it's a really good way to kind of organize your personal finances and not to spend unnecessarily, to kind of keep your eye on the bigger picture of things, and not to just buy stuff on credit impulsively and then have all these horrible bills to carry around. That being said, Dave Ramsey or anyone else who is successful in business probably has some form of debt. It's just not consumer debt. It is usually considered investments. Okay. So an investment could be a house, but it could be even more than that. It could be your business. It could be maybe a boat. It could be many different things that could be considered investments. And as long as there's something that people feel like there's some return on their investment that's going to be higher than whatever the investment is, they feel like it's worth it. Well, let me tell you something. An investment in yourself will always give you the highest return. Higher than anything else, higher than real estate, higher than 401k, higher than an IRA, all of the stuff. A return on an investment on yourself will always be the highest, because, again, it can't depreciate. No one can steal it. Nothing can happen. The market turning upside down has nothing to do with the skills and the knowledge that you own and you possess in your mind. So that's something that I really wanted to kind of emphasize, because there's an idea that that investing, if you go into debt to invest in something, that it's always a bad thing. But there is such a thing as good debt and bad debt. So bad debt is the stuff that is our purchases, consumer purchases, and investments, depending on the kinds of investments you make, could be good or bad. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so the second point is that now we're talking about investments. We're going to ask the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Deborah, what do you mean? Which comes first? The people who invest in themselves because they're financially successful and they have the money to invest in themselves? Or is it that they invested in themselves first when they didn't have the money and then became financially successful? So that could be a really big point of debate. Right? Which came first? My honest and genuine belief, after having observed so many self-made millionaires and so many people who have transformed their finances, and not just their finances, oddly enough, their entire lives, their relationships, their health, everything. Most of those people started out when they were broke. And they started out by doing the crazy investment that they didn't have the money for, but that actually got them to the place where they started to take incremental steps and just continue to level up. Okay, so I'm just going to leave you with that. Next point is that investment isn't always monetary. So oftentimes people think about an investment as, I have to invest money. But a lot of times the best investments and the first investments that we make are just our time and attention. Which is why things like social media, things like emails can be so challenging for us they can suck up so much of our energy and our time, and then we're like, oh, I just can't do any more of any of it. But truthfully, a wise investor just knows where they invest their time and their energy, and they look for people who are successful at what they want to be successful at, and then they imitate, or they give them their time and their ear. So maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a blog, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a course of some sort that they give their attention that may not cost anything other than their time and attention. And I know that for me, when I was starting out, that's what I did. I spent many, many hours in the library, many hours listening to audio programs. I was the person who would buy the audio program and listen to it and then send it back within the 30 days so that all I had to pay for was shipping. I was the person who would get everything from the library and save it on my computer. I was that girl because I didn't have the money, but I knew I needed to level up. Okay, so I started out with not investing dollars, I invested time and energy. Or if I did invest dollars, it was very little, right? It was like $20 here, $10 there. It wasn't much. So don't second guess or negate the value of what you're doing right now. And what you're doing right now is you are investing your time and attention in listening to something that no one can steal from you. You'll always have the understanding of the words that I'm sharing with you now that you can hold in your heart and in your mind, and that can help you to have a better quality of life. That's an investment. Okay, so it's not just money. But what I also will say is that I did a lot of those, the reading, going to library, listening to audio programs, and so forth, to really start to find what was really most important to me. And I did a lot of research and reading, and most of the women that I encounter have also done quite a bit of research, quite a bit of reading, listening, trying to figure out what they want. So that is really, really important. You don't want to just invest in anything that someone is convincing you that, oh, this is the greatest thing for you. No, you have to have done your research to know that that's truly sounding like the real deal versus the other things that you've read or whatever, or that you are in a place where you are ready to take action. So if you're not ready to take action and you're not ready, or you're not really sure what else is out there that may or may not help you, then yeah, it's not the right time to make a serious investment if you're broke. I'll just be real with you. So just wanted to get that out. Now, the fourth thing is to prioritize. So there's something called the 80-20 rule, right? Where 20% of what you do gets 80% of the results and vice versa. So in your life, there's probably many things that you want to correct. It may be your body, it may be your parenting skills, I'm sure if you're here, it's also your intimate relationship. It may be your relationship with yourself that you need to kind of build up and get more strong and more enjoyable. It may be your relationship with your boss, it may be your job. It could be a million different things that you need to do better with. It could be housekeeping. I know that's one for me. So when you have those different challenges, how do you know which to invest in? Well, it's usually one of two things. Either it's the one that's giving you the most acute pain, where you're really feeling it, like you feel it every single day and it's really bad. Or the other thing that it could be is just a thing that you just know that this thing gets settled. It helps with 80% of the other stuff that you've got to deal with. So intimate relationship usually falls into those categories of both being acute pain and also having a huge influence on pretty much a lot of other things in your life. But it may not be that. It might be health or whatever. So prioritize, because you can't fix everything at once. Do one thing at a time. So what you do is you create a list of the things that you want to improve. I have this list. I have a running list that I keep. And sometimes I switch the order, like things switch in order of importance. But basically, that's my list. As I get any money coming in, it's going to things in that list in that order. So that's another thing to keep in mind, is that you can't do everything at once. So just pick the biggest one, the one thing that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, and focus on just that one thing. The fifth thing I want to share with you is to be decisive. Once you've done your research and you've prioritized what's really the most important thing for you to handle right now, then be decisive. Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try to bring in extra other factors about other people and all that. That's irrelevant. You have a goal. You have something that you know you want. Be decisive and go after it. Why do you have to be decisive? For the next part. Because before you can actually find the way to make your money goals come true, or make this other goal come true, this thing that you want to invest in, you have to know that this is what you're decided on. You've decided, you are clear, you are committed to this result. If you remember, the first shift from the masterclass is to decide and commit. You can't just come in and just say, oh, well, I really do want to invest, but I don't know, maybe I need to do some more thinking about this factor and that factor, and it doesn't work. You will never get the results you want, ever. Even if it's free, you won't get the results. You have to be decisive. Okay, so once you're decisive and you've committed to this outcome that you want, whether it's your health or your home or your relationship or whatever it is, okay, now we go to the place of, oh, hey, hey, nice, what's up? So now we go to the place of getting resourceful. And getting resourceful is that's the main thing of how we invest when we're broke. So getting resourceful means you think of many different ideas and you keep trying things till you find something that works. And there's no such thing as embarrassment. There's no such thing as, you're too proud to do something, because you have to decide. If you know you're broke, your resources are extremely limited, then you're going to have to get resourceful or creative, because that's what you have. You don't have the resources, you got to get resourceful. Okay. And that means trying just about anything to get that investment that you need to get started on whatever path it is you're trying to go into. And this is really, really important. And this is where I've held space most of my life, is like, and my mom, it was so funny because over Thanksgiving break, I spent a few days with my mom. And she said that to me. She said something about her uncle, my uncle, her brother. And then she said, you know what, Deborah, you and him are so alike in so many ways. And I said, really, like what? And she's like, because both of you will like have no money and will still manage to find a way to travel to long distances to do whatever it is you want to do with your family or loved ones. And I thought about it and I said, yeah, she's kind of right. It's so true. It is absolutely true. I am very resourceful. So I will have no money and still I'll figure out a way to do stuff. I'm like the opposite of a budgeter. I suck at budgeting, but I just know that when I need to do something, I'll find a way to do it. So here are some ideas to get you started on getting resourceful for whatever it is that you want to invest in yourself in. So one of them is if you have a credit card, to be able to increase the credit limit. I have done this many times where, I've just called them up and they've been like, sure, we'll give you whatever, 500. It was never as much as I wanted it to be, but besides the point, it was enough. We made it work. And another thing was to apply for a new credit card. So that's another thing you can do if you want to get resourceful. Or you might even apply for a loan from Upstart, or there's another company that's slipping my mind now, that they give loans for personal development. So if you're trying to develop yourself and improve yourself, which is an investment in yourself, they can loan you money. Another one is that I think is really helpful, and most people try to say, oh, I'm embarrassed, but to ask a friend or a family member to invest in you. So maybe you'd feel fine telling them to invest in, I don't know, a condo or something. Why not ask them to invest in you and just tell them that, you had, you're having a really hard time. This thing is really important to you. This is one thing, which is why it's important to prioritize just one thing at a time. And this one thing you really know you need to make it happen. And you'll be amazed sometimes, a family member, a parent, an uncle, a cousin, a sister, a brother, that they might just say yes. They just might say yes and help you out. So never, or even a close friend, never let pride get in the way of you getting something that's really going to improve the quality of your life, because it's not just going to improve your quality of life. It's also going to improve their quality of life. If they love you, they're going to benefit from that as well. Another idea is, for whatever you're trying to invest in, is to see if they have a payment plan. Sometimes I know when I was at rock bottom in my relationship, and I went for my coaching program. They had a payment plan, and it just so happened that it was like just enough that I could squeeze out of my monthly income to be able to do it. So I was able to stretch something that cost several $1,000s into several months, and so I was able to do it. Although another way to do a payment plan is a credit card, because if you put it all on a credit card, then you can just pay it back incrementally and finish it up. And a lot of credit cards these days actually have 0% APR for like a year or so. So if you charge it and then you pay it off over 12 months, which is basically a payment plan, you didn't even have to pay any interest on it. So that's kind of like a sweet deal. So something to keep in mind. Another thing you could do is to take on a side job, maybe a weekend job or a night shift job. If you have like a spouse who can be home with the kids at night, and you can do something at nighttime for a little bit. Maybe it's even something working from home or something locally that's not too draining on you like physically, but that can help you to get some extra income that way to be able to pay the credit card or whatever it is you end up doing. And then another idea is maybe even checking your garage or your closets and seeing what's some stuff that you have that you don't need. Like I just noticed in my bookshelves, I have all these books, and I'm like, you know what? I never read these books anymore. Even though they were really good at the time, I'm like never going to read them. So why not bring them out and sell them on eBay or Craigslist or something, and get some cash that way? And that can be for something small as books, which probably is only going to get me a few $100 at most, to things like ski equipment or, furniture, stuff that you just don't need that may be sitting around and you haven't thought of that you could sell to generate some funds. And then another thing is who owes you money. So sometimes we, the women in this group are like so generous, and they're such beautiful souls, and they really care about people. And they're, I'm sure there's been a time where you've given someone money. I was reminded of that not too long ago. He's a good friend. I call him my little brother, and I had given him, a few $100 when he was in a tight spot, and I had totally forgotten about it. And he brought it up to me last month. He's like, yeah, remember that time when you helped me out? And I was like, oh yeah. I mean, he did pay it back to me, even though I didn't want it back, but he did pay it back to me. But the point of the matter is that usually there's somebody that you've lent money to, and maybe even forgotten about. And maybe now's the time to cash in and say, hey, look, now can you return the favor? I'm in a tight spot. So those are some ideas of some ways that you can generate some cash to fund your investment. Now, here's the key. When you make the decision and you commit to it, trust that the money will come to you. Don't ask how, don't worry about it. Trust that it'll come to you. Just keep your eyes and your ears open and leave no stone unturned. And even if it seems ridiculous. Oh, one of them that I didn't put here that actually helped me in the last investment I made was a 401k that I wasn't using, and I invested it in myself, which was better than putting it in any stocks. I cashed it in and invested it in myself from an old job that I had left like a year prior. So that's another idea too, is if you have like a 401k or something that you're not, you don't even pay attention to, it's on like autopilot, here's a time to be able to use it, because that's what it's really for. It's for you. So now you're investing in yourself in some way, in a way that will be a better return on your investment. But here's the key. Once you've made that decision and you've committed to it, trust that the money will show up, and trust that you will get the highest return on your investment when you're broke. If you can afford the program, you probably won't get as high a return on your investment. And the reason for that is that it's just not so dear. It wasn't that hard to get. When it's hard to get, when you had to beg your mom, or you had to plead with your ex or whoever it is to get you the money for this investment, when you get that thing started, when you start that program or you start whatever it is you're trying to do, you are going to be super keyed in. You are going to be ready to do what is necessary to get the transformation that you're looking for, because you know what you went through to get it. So you're actually going to get a higher return on your investment than if you had invested when you had the money available. So I hope that's encouraging to you. I went through a lot of information there. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below, and I will happily answer them. And let me know if there's something else, another question that you have that you would like for me to answer. I know this was a little bit longer than usual, but I really wanted to cover this in a little bit more depth because this is something that I just encounter quite a bit. And so I thought it would be worthwhile to just share it here in the group. All right, much love to you. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing your comments below. Bye.